I'm so glad you're here for this lesson on map, plan, and diagram labeling. Question type 4 of 6 in your listening study journey. In the next few minutes, I'll walk you through exactly what these questions look like on the page. Because there are actually two related versions: a map or plan version and a diagram version. A clear step-by-step strategy for answering both of them with confidence. The mistakes that trip up even strong test takers, and the specific traps the setters love to use. Then we'll put it all together with 2 full practice items, just like your real exam preparation would ask of you. Let's get into it. And if this lesson helps you, please like it, subscribe to SparkVerse, and drop a comment letting me know your questions and the target band score you're working toward. I'd genuinely love to know what you're aiming for. Let me walk you through what a map, plan, or diagram labeling question actually looks like. This one is almost always found in Section 2, when it's a map or plan of an outdoor space or building. Or in Section 4, when it's a diagram of an object, a process, or a structure. Either way, you're handed a visual with several numbered locations or parts that haven't been labeled yet. And as the speaker describes the layout, you fill in each number using either a written word or a letter from a word bank. Here's the key difference between the two versions. On a map or plan, the speaker usually walks you through the space like a route, point to point, using directional language. On a diagram, the speaker usually builds it structurally instead, describing it layer by layer or stage by stage, from top to bottom. But both versions share one really important feature: there's always a fixed reference point already labeled for you. Something like main gate on a map or lid on a diagram. Everything else is described relative to that point. So if you ever lose track partway through, come back to that fixed point in your mind and reorient yourself from there. Here's the strategy I want you to use every time you face a map, plan, or diagram question. Before the recording starts, study the visual carefully, find that fixed reference point, and quickly scan roughly where each numbered spot sits in relation to it. If you're given a word bank, read through every option first, so you already know the kind of vocabulary you're listening for. Once the audio begins, your approach depends on which version you're working with. For a map or plan, trace the route with your eyes exactly as the speaker walks through it, without jumping ahead. For a diagram, follow the structure the speaker is building instead. Top to bottom, layer to layer, or stage to stage, since there's no real movement through space to follow. It also really helps to brush up on both sets of vocabulary in advance, words like opposite, next to, adjacent to, in front of, behind, beyond, and clockwise for maps, and words like above, below, beneath, on top of, in the middle of, surrounding, and at the base or center of for diagrams. And finally, the moment you're confident about a label, write it down and immediately refocus on the next sentence. Because dwelling on one answer is how you lose the next one. Mistakes I see over and over on this question type, so you can steer clear of every one of them. The first is getting left and right confused on a map, because those directions depend on which way the speaker is facing as they walk, not which way you're looking at the map on the page. The second is confusing similar positional words, like next to and opposite on a map, or on top of and surrounding on a diagram, since setters deliberately test whether you actually know the difference. The third is relying on real-world logic instead of the recording itself. Just because a car park would logically sit inside a park, or a soil layer would logically belong near the top of a compost bin, doesn't mean that's actually true in this particular recording. Always go with what's said, not what seems likely. And the fourth is losing your place after missing just one direction or one stage, which then throws off every single label that comes after it. Here are the traps and tricks I want you watching for on every map, plan, or diagram task. First, anchor yourself to that fixed reference point. If you get lost partway through the recording, don't panic and don't try to guess backwards. Just wait calmly for the next clear direction or stage marker and rejoin the description from there. Second, watch for excluded options. Because just like in matching questions, one-word bank option is often mentioned specifically so it can be ruled out. With phrases like "that's actually just outside the gate," or "this design doesn't actually include a soil layer." Third, listen closely for sequence words, because they tell you exactly when the speaker has moved to the next numbered point. On a map, that's phrases like "once you're through," "continuing along," "from there," and "finally." On a diagram, it's phrases like "directly below," "the next layer down," "underneath that," and "at the very bottom or top." And finally, practice both vocabulary sets actively before the test, because being able to instantly picture the difference between opposite and adjacent to, or between on top of and surrounding, saves you precious seconds while the recording is playing.
Welcome to Greenfield Community Park. Let me quickly walk you through the layout before you head off exploring on your own. As you come in through the main gate, you'll notice the car park isn't actually inside the park at all. It's just outside the main gate, so you won't see it marked on this map. Once you're through the gate, look to your left immediately. That's where you'll find the children's playground. It's the first thing on your left as you enter. Continuing straight ahead along the main path, before you reach the pond, there's a set of public toilets on your right, roughly halfway between the gate and the water. Now, once you reach the pond, follow the path around to the far side, directly opposite the entrance. That's where the bandstand is set up. It's used for concerts on summer weekends. From the bandstand, if you continue along the eastern edge of the pond, you'll come to the picnic area, a large grassy spot with benches, perfect for a lunch break. And finally, right at the back of the park, beyond the picnic area near the rear fence, that's where you'll find our new skate park. It opened just last month and it's already really popular with local teenagers. Today I want to show you how a simple home compost bin is actually structured. It's really just a series of layers stacked on top of one another, underneath a loose-fitting lid. Now, a lot of people assume you start with a layer of garden soil right under the lid, but that's actually not part of this design at all. There's no soil layer here, so don't mark that one on the diagram. Directly below the lid, the very first layer is made up of straw and dry leaves, what gardeners often call the browns. This helps keep the whole pile aerated. The next layer down, underneath the straw, is where you put your fruit and vegetable scraps, the wet kitchen waste, sometimes called the greens. Below that, roughly in the middle of the bin, there's a second layer of browns, more straw and dry leaves, added again to balance out the moisture from the layer above. Further down, just above the base, sits the drainage layer, made of twigs and small stones, which stops the whole pile from getting waterlogged. And right at the very bottom, resting on the base of the bin, you'll find the finished compost, the dark, crumbly material that's fully broken down and ready to use in the garden.
Let's recap what we covered today. Map, plan, and diagram labeling questions hand you a visual with numbered points that need labeling. Always anchored to one fixed reference point. And the two versions are handled a little differently, maps and plans as a route. Diagrams as a structure built layer by layer. The key to answering them well is studying the visual and word bank beforehand. Tracking the description exactly as it unfolds. And staying alert for that classic excluded option trap. You now have the format, the strategy, the common mistakes, and the traps for both versions all in one place. And that's real progress toward your target band. If this lesson helped you, please like it, subscribe to SparkVerse, and share it with a classmate who's also working through their exam preparation. It genuinely helps us keep making more of these for free. Here's what's coming next. The next video covers short answer questions with the same full breakdown of tips, strategy, common mistakes, and traps to watch out for. IELTS. Thank you so much for watching, and keep an eye on our channel for the date of our next live practicing session. Keep going, you're doing great.